Now we will start our workshop. For this, let me introduce our first distinguished speaker for today's workshop, Dr. Bushra Hassan Khan Ma'am. She is an assistant professor in Department of Pharmacology, JN Medical College, and an expert teacher and mentor. She successfully conducted research on adverse effects following immunization related to Covaxin. She has authored 3 recent editions of the CBME-based Practical Pharmacology Manual for MBBS students. She also has a keen interest in experimental pharmacology. Ma'am would give us a brief presentation on parts of a clinical trial protocol. Over to you, ma'am.
Okay, am I audible? Thank you, Dr. Anand, for the introduction. Am I audible?
Yes, ma'am, you are audible and visible.
Okay, thank you. So we'll begin with the parts of a clinical trial protocol. There are various steps for making a successful protocol. First of all, we identify the topic. Then we design a question and the primary and secondary objectives and various other objectives if you want to do the study. And then we outline one-page concept paper, which is usually a thought process, how you're going to conduct the study. That is just on a piece of paper, which is far less in amount than the actual protocol. Then we prepare the dummy tables. Then we write the draft protocol. Then we prepare the instruments and annexes and submit the protocol for the peer review, and therefore at last we seek the approval from the institutional ethics committee. This is how we go about the academic trial. What is the first draft of the protocol? It usually contains not more than 2,000 words. Its introduction is usually less than 1/5 of the whole length of the document. It may contain 5 to 10 key references. It is thought as it is written, and it keeps the short concept paper as the summary. Now, the various outlines of the concept paper may be used to design the draft of the protocol, first draft of the protocol, and it includes headings like background, a justification for doing the study, the various objectives, the methodology, the expected benefits, as well as the budget that is required for conducting this study. Now, about the methodology. We will discuss one by one what is the outline of the method section. It includes various paragraphs containing the study design, then the description of interventions. If you are conducting experimental studies, then we describe the interventions, and otherwise the study population in case of clinical trials, the various operational definitions, the sampling procedure, how will you calculate the sample size, the methodology of calculation of sample size, then how the data will be collected, then how the data will be analyzed, and the project implementation plan is done to control the quality. Then human subjects protection is also included in the protocol. We'll describe one by one. So the study design paragraph. It explains how the objectives they lead to the indicators and to the study design. Then what is the type of the study you need to mention in your protocol. Then whether it is a cohort study, case control study, or a cross-sectional study, that needs to be defined. And whether it's going to be a prospective or a retrospective study, that also needs to be mentioned in the study protocol. Then we also describe the various interventions. Then who will be the intervenees, what will be the interventions that are made, then what is the total duration for which the interventions will be given, and how the interventions are going to be applied. All this needs to be mentioned in your protocol. Then study population paragraph comes next. It uses the time, place, and person. So you define what is the inclusion criteria, what is the exclusion criteria, what is the geographical distribution of your study population. Then various aspects like from where you are going to take those patients, all those details are included in the this heading. Then never confuse the study population and the study sample. Study population is a bigger population from which you take out certain number of sample. So study population and study sample are completely different things. Study sample is taken out from a study population. Then we have to ensure that the study population that we are choosing for our study, that is suitable to address the objectives of the study. Then comes next the operational definitions paragraph. So it gives the key outcomes and exposures of the study that needs to be defined. The operational definitions may be used and they may be standard definitions. So the references for those definitions needs to be mentioned carefully in the protocol. In this, the definitions should be clear and specific. That is important. Next is the sampling procedure paragraph. So the method of calculation of sample should be mentioned, should be described, and it should justify the type of sample that is used, whether it is a random sample or a non-random sample, systematic sample, cluster sample. We must at all costs avoid taking convenience samples. So the methodology of choosing the sample that should be mentioned in your protocol. And references are also needed over here. Randomization should also be mentioned if it is done. Then what about the sample size? You need to have another paragraph in which you mention about the sample size. So usually the objectives and the methodology is taken into account when we estimate the sample size. So that needs to be described. And whether you are using any formulas, you are doing it manually, or any software is being used, computerized sample size has been obtained, that needs to be clearly mentioned, as well as the references should be mentioned at the end. Then how do we collect the data? That also needs to be a part of the protocol. Whatever data that will be collected, that needs to be given in brief detail, and whether the principal investigator or the other study investigators will be doing the data collection or some other personnel will be employed for this purpose, that needs to be mentioned. Then what are the instruments for data collection? Whether the data is going to be collected through questionnaires or abstracts, forms, or any other method, that needs to be defined in the study protocol. Then what is the data collection method? That will also needs to be mentioned. Then what is the analysis plan? The analysis plan includes the various data entry methods that will be used, any softwares that will be used, decoding stages, descriptive and analytic stages. If the prevalence and incidence is being calculated, that also needs to be addressed. Then in the analytical stage, whether univariate, stratified or multivariate analysis is being done, that needs to be mentioned in the protocol. Then the project implementation plan paragraph comes next. It details the steps that will be used to ensure the data quality at all these stages. It includes the data collection methods, data entry and analysis, reporting, rules and responsibilities of the principal investigator as well as the OPIs and other personnel involved in conducting the study, then how the project will be governed, and the coordination of all the project activities as well as the project timeline will be mentioned. Then last comes the human subjects protection paragraph. It is very important to mention the various steps that will be used to protect the study participants. It involves the confidentiality, how it will be maintained, the confidentiality of the subjects, and how the minimization of risk will be ensured, and the benefits will be maximized. All these things need to be mentioned in the protocol. And whether in case of any injury or any bad consequences, the compensation will need to be given. So that also needs to be mentioned in the study protocol. Mind it that compensations and undue incentives, they are different. Compensations are allowed, but undue incentives should not be given. The informed consent form should be attached with the protocol. There are various documents according to the new drug clinical trial guidelines that are there, NDCT guidelines. We'll be uploading through the WhatsApp what are the various documents that are required in the phase 1 and phase 3 protocols. So And the approval procedures from the ethics committee of the institution, that also needs to be done. And these are the various data collection instruments. We can use questionnaires, abstraction forms, structured observation guides, interviews may be done to collect the data, then focus group discussion may be there. All these instruments, they can be used for the data collection. So annexes include the various standard operating procedures, the training framework for the field workers, the participant recruitment material, the adverse event management form, various consent forms, and the study management. All these are included in the annexes of the protocol. Then as we finalize the protocol, it is best to give the protocol for peer review and obtain feedback from colleagues as well as experts. Then it is reviewed by the ethics committee and approval is obtained from the institutional ethics committee, and it must be ensured that the drafts are archived. All the data that is archive is made. So here on the display is the name of the website which can be used for designing a nice protocol. It is www.equator-network.org. It can be used for various types of study. The protocol can be designed. Various forms are there on this website. So depending on the type of the study, we can choose what type of protocol we are going to design. Then these are the various guidelines which can be used for designing the protocols. Okay, moving on. This was a brief overview of the parts of the clinical protocol.
You, ma'am.
We have a few questions from our delegates.
You, ma'am. First question is, are there any specific guidelines for writing the protocol?
Yes, Dr. Anand, thank you for the question. We are showing the various guidelines like spirit standard protocol items, recommendations for interventional trials. If we browse this on the Google, it will show you the guidelines for designing a nice protocol. Okay, then consolidated standards of reporting trials, that is sponsored guidelines is there. Then STROBE is there for strengthening the reporting of the observational studies in epidemiology. It is specific for the observational studies. Then PRISMA is for the systematic reviews and the meta-analysis.
And please explain what comes under observational study.
Okay, so what comes under observational studies? Observational studies are different from interventional studies. We just observe the data that is already there. So observational studies, they usually get approval from the ethics committee easily as compared to the interventional studies.
Thank you, ma'am, for such an informative presentation.